Not sure. Running, running, running. Running. Hey everybody, if you're just tuning in, we are working on a couple things, trying to get us started here. Getting our live stream going, waiting till everything gets totally up. I believe we pretty much got it. Let's see here. From what I can see, we are up and running. Can anyone out there who might be watching tell me if you have some audio? Anyone? Anyone? I am a couple of minutes early. I have 10:26 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we are set to roll at 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have actually in 10:27 now, so we've got 3 minutes to go before we get rocking. I'm just firing up the old Briggs & Stratton here to try to get things rolling and make sure that we are good to go in 3 minutes. Again, we will just kind of relax here for a minute. I wish there was a way on YouTube to go out and cut out this kind of fat at the beginning of a show, because it's safe to start it like this to make sure you have audio, video, everything's right, and everything gets rolling properly. The problem is when you have that video and you go back to it later on, you've got all this fat at the beginning where there's nothing going on, and people will tune into that, and just for a very brief moment they're like, I'm not watching this, because they don't think anything's going to go on. So yeah, wish we could correct that. Maybe there's a way to do it and I just don't know how to. Maybe YouTube actually does allow that. I'm not aware of it. So let's see here. Basil L. Majors, I guess that's how you pronounce your last name. Welcome. And again, we've got 2 more minutes. So we will wait till everybody else kind of makes their way in. And let's see here. Just making sure we're doing, checking everything to make sure our stream is is good to go. Yeah, so far looks like we're doing good. We've got what we need. We've got 2 more minutes to go. Again, folks, I was just talking about how I wish there was a way, and again, there's possibly a way on YouTube to go in and cut the fat out at the beginning of these live streams like this, because typically speaking, when you start a live stream like this, you start a couple of minutes early just to make sure that your audio, your video, your settings, everything is proper, and the handoff between your software and the live stream is good. The problem is when you go back to watch it later on, you've got this anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes of BS fat, I call it, at the beginning, that you typically can't trim back down. So anyway, I see you guys are rolling in. We got 1 more minute till I will officially get into what the agenda here is. So I'm just kind of, again, I guess audio levels are okay with you all. I haven't seen any complaints on it. Video looks like lighting is okay. I've got a lot of stuff to go over, guys. I'm looking down at my, if everything works tonight, I'm looking down at everything that I have that needs to be shared here, and I've got a bunch of files that will hopefully work properly. And we can get things rolling. Just doing some name calls here while we're waiting. We've got about 1 more minute. I know we've got, let's see, we've got Florida in the house. Of course, we are in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I've got Dallas, Georgia, Austin, Texas, Westlake, Louisiana. Yeah, where are you guys from? Just let us know. I'll look at a couple of you guys' questions real quick before we get rolling. Nathan D says, Paul, are your bump stock videos being striked on YouTube? Probably. You know, it's YouTube's going to get sued at some point. They just will, because of the way they do things. They initially, when one of my videos went out on the bump fire stock, in, I don't know, it was probably 8 hours, it got 10,000 views. Well, they immediately demonetized it at that point to where it couldn't make any money. Most YouTube guys are going to put a video up there that when uploaded by default, they've got all their settings already set. Well, obviously, you have a monetization setting that's already there. Well, when I woke up that morning and saw that there were 10,000 views, but they had already demonetized it, I appealed it. I won the appeal. Then that day goes on, and that video blew up, and it probably got, in the first day, 200-something thousand views. Well, then they demonetized it. So they were running ads for a while, making money off of it. But I think what happened is our video, I don't know if ours would qualify as being viral, but it was shared by a couple of Japanese television stations, the Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, CNN, even the Huffington Post, you name it. I mean, there were so many, NPR, I mean, you name it. We did interviews for 2 days. Today was the only day that I haven't done more than 10 interviews. I think I did 6 today on the bump fire stock and the ruling with the NRA. So we'll get more into that here in a minute. I want to, let's kick the show off. We are at 10:32. We've been here for 2 minutes. I appreciate everybody that's here. Again, like I've told you guys before, I'm always flattered that you all will spend your time with me on a Friday evening like this late, and I apologize that it's always late, but I've told you guys before that I have a special needs son. I put him to bed, and then after I put him to bed, I'm able to come into the studio and do this. So I'm just not able to do it at an earlier time, so this is the best I can do. And he's not feeling too good tonight, so I kind of feel bad about that. Anyway, Washington's in the house. Good to see you guys. North Carolina, Ohio, Virginia. Good to see you guys. Kansas City. First of all, I'd like to do the right thing tonight by kicking this show off. And, you know, we won't do a full-blown, you know, minute or whatever, but let's take a really brief moment of silence for the 59, I believe, that perished in Las Vegas at the hands of some clown that just had some kind of an issue, and the 500-plus people who were also shot, and hopefully will recover effectively. So we'll take, you know, a couple of seconds if you guys don't mind. We'll just kind of settle down in the chat room for a minute and take a brief moment about that. All right, guys, with that being said, I'm going to have to give you guys a little bit of a problem that I have with this whole situation in terms of prayers, thoughts, and all that. This is not something I intended to start the show off with, but I have to say it because of how we started it off. One of the things that has bothered me most about the left is always, we expect the left coming after our guns and Second Amendment rights. We expect that. I don't think anybody's surprised. But what I had a real problem with this past week was not just one, but several different Democrats mocking Republicans, those on the right, those that support the Second Amendment, for praying and giving thoughts and prayers for the victims who were either shot or were killed in Las Vegas. That is one of the most pathetic things that that's the lowest I've seen the left stoop to at this point. Like I say in a blog post that I posted on LegallyArmedAmerica.com the other day, who are they to tell us when and where and why we can pray? And if you're not religious, whatever you do, you know, maybe you meditate, maybe you just take a moment of silence like we just did. You know, I'm not saying you have to pray, but who is the left to decide when and where we can pray and for what reason? And who can, for that matter? You know, that's always bothered me about the left. They feel like they're the only rule makers out there and that their rules are the ones that we all have to abide by and follow. It's just the way they are. They're control freaks. Now, we're not going to get into a political argument because you guys that know me know that I have very little trust for the Republicans on the right. I have none for the Democrats, but very little for the Republicans. But I'm going to tell you that for those people to say that we don't have the right to pray, for that time and that prayers aren't enough. Who was it? Here we go. Mr. Mark Kelly Giffords. This is one of them. This is a clown right here. If you guys, I'm sure you know him. I'm sure you recognize him. This guy right here is married to Gabby Giffords, the prop that's on the right. And I say prop not out of disrespect for her, but because that's what Mark Giffords uses her for. Now, I call him Mark Kelly Giffords with a hyphen between Kelly and Giffords because he's only popular because of her. No one would know who this clown was if she hadn't been shot in Arizona by some crazed gunman. She gets shot in the head. She has all these problems and all these issues. And then suddenly, here comes Mark pumping his fist in the air. Now suddenly he's the go-to guy for the anti-gun movement, making cash. This guy's making money not only on emotions and feelings of the American public who are anti-gun, he's making it off of his wife. He props his wife up. And this is, again, no disrespect to her. She can't hardly speak. She can't think. It's obvious that she's there to bring attention to Mark and to gain some sympathy. When have you ever seen this man talk about gun control without having his wife propped up next to him? I think that's the most pathetic thing I've seen in the world. It's sad that a grown man would do something like this. This guy, there is clearly something wrong with him. He doesn't even see that everybody else sees that he is using his wife as a prop. He is basically a pimp. He's a pimp. He's a pimp in the gun control wing, and I think it's pathetic that this guy, as low as his morals are, can come out and say that he doesn't need our prayers and that our prayers aren't enough. Mark, you can pound sand up your ass. Got no use for you, buddy. Never liked this guy. Never liked this guy. He's been a phony from day one. Yeah, I'll tip my hat to him for his service in the military and the Navy and whatever he did circling the earth, big deal. But right now, he's doing some things simply for profit, and he's doing it standing on his wife's crippled back. That's pathetic. Be a man, Mark. Be a man. Let's get right into a bunch of things. I want to let's talk about how our week has been this week. We've had an incredible week this week. It's been one of those things that it's kind of been a bittersweet week for us, and I only say sweet because we've had a chance to defend the gun community in quite a few instances, and that's the sweet part of it. The bitter side of it is it shouldn't be under these conditions. The left wasted no time jumping on guns. This is something that we're never going to get rid of. If we're not already used to it, we may as well get used to it. It's never going to change. It's so funny the way you have a control group on the left who are careful about what they say they want to do with gun control, and then you have these rogue senators and representatives on the other side that are in that same group of the left, but they're in a different group altogether, and they're out there making it clear that AR-15s is what they're after. Again, their term of assault weapon, our term of a modern sporting rifle, they're making it no secret that that's what they're really after. Now you have the other ones over here that are wishing that these would shut up, because clearly what they're after is AR-15s. But they know they can't go straight for an AR-15 because no one's going to go for it. It's got to be baby steps for them. That's why the bump fire stock is the first thing. If this guy hadn't used a bump fire stock, what do you think that they would be after today? What would they be talking about? Do you honestly think, now again, the hottest topic in the last 3 days has been bump fire stocks, am I right? The hottest topic, by far. Not even close to anything else. Okay, well, what if he didn't use a bump fire stock? What if he had just used a regular AR-15, all the AR-15s he had in that room, and simply pulled the trigger, and that's how he had rained down his murder on all these people? What would we be talking about? Seriously. My guess is, he had a couple of those, I think it was the Surefire brand, 60-round magazines or 100-round magazines, the ones that flare out and then they come way down. My guess is that would be what we'd be talking about. High-capacity magazines, they like to call it. If he would have used 30-round magazines or even 10-round magazines, then what would we be talking about? AR-15s. The AR-15 is ultimately where they want to go. If right out of the gate, Congress, who should not be making gun laws, Congress is not the ones, they're not the ones that should be making gun laws at all. I don't trust any of them. They should not be the ones making those types of decisions. But what if Congress on the day after this shooting had come out and said, no bump fire stocks, done, over with, pull them off the shelf, turn yours in, not going to have them anymore. Well, that would have basically, would have busted the left's bubble, because they were gearing up trying to figure out what it was that they could hang this murder on. What can we blame? Not thinking about the guy, not even thinking about his mental capacity or anything like that. What can we blame that we can take away? Bump fire stocks. Who needs a bump fire stock? Now, if the NRA or not whoever, the ATF, legislators, if they would have taken bump fire stocks away on day one, then the left would have immediately gone to something else. They're so predictable. They're like dogs. They're running around a yard just looking for something. Or chickens, more like chickens, chasing bugs in a chicken yard. You take something away that they want to take away, or you don't allow them to have the pleasure of taking that away, and they're going to move on to something else. They will never, ever be happy. They're wanting to take something away based on hypothetical deaths in the future. Hypothetical deaths. Deaths that might happen just because it happened one time. How many deaths, how many murders have ever been committed with a bump fire stock in the United States? One. Now you can count 59, but there's only one shooting that has ever happened where anyone has been shot with a bump fire stock, on record, of course. I don't know if, Billy and his cousins went out shooting and, actually shot each other in the leg or something, but on record, one shooting, and that was it. Now, we're going to knee-jerk react on one shooting. I'm not saying that there's any amount of acceptable deaths out there, so if anybody's watching this that disagrees, don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say these were acceptable deaths. What I'm saying is, how do you react so quickly on something that you have no data on? They're not even through investigating yet. They haven't finished investigating. For all we know, he didn't even use those bump fire stocks. Now, I think he did. I mean, if you listen to the rate of fire and the way it speeds up and slows down and speeds up and slows down, I have enough experience behind bump fire stocks to know that that's pretty recognizable. In fact, if you go out and look at our Facebook page, probably the day that it happened or the day after it happened, I predicted that it was one of two things. It's either a crank type, like a Gatlin type fixture that will allow you to crank the gun because of the speed, the rate of fire sped up and slowed down, or a bump fire stock. That was my two predictions. And in fact, it seemed like it was a bump fire, but we don't even know that for a fact. We don't know that any of those bullets that actually went down there were fired from a bump fire stock. My point is, the investigation is not even through. Why don't we wait till investigations are through, look at all the facts, look at what everything happened, look at how we could prevent various things from happening, and approach it like that. In a court of law, that's how they do it. They don't sentence the guy before the trial is over with. They wait till it's over with. They look at the facts. It goes to a jury. Hopefully people with reasonable minds go in there and look at it, make a decision based on that. They hand down their sentencing. You don't sentence somebody before the trial starts. The sad thing is, and I believe I put this in my blog as well, this conversation that everybody keeps talking about, we have to have a conversation about gun control. No, we don't. We don't have to have a conversation about gun control. That's the misnomer right there. We've gotten so used to hearing that phrase that we need to have a conversation about gun control that a lot of people have come to accept that, okay, because we know we don't mean gun control. What we mean is, we mean public safety. That's what we mean. Yes, I'm all for public safety. Let's talk. Let's talk. I'm okay with that. Call me. I'm good. Where do you want to meet? But if your meeting has at the top of the agenda, if it doesn't say public safety meeting, if it says something like gun control meeting, I'm done. Because you've already made up your mind what you're going into that meeting to do. You're going into that meeting to take guns, limit guns, do something against the Second Amendment, to take something from me, an honest, law-abiding citizen who's never broken the law, maybe a few speeding tickets, but you know what I mean. You've already decided that you're going in there to win your side of the argument, and you don't care about mine. That's not how you compromise. That's not how you compromise. So the left is not even serious about talking about anything about public safety. And when I'm thinking about public safety, I'm going to share some numbers with you. When I'm thinking about public safety, No, my first thought is not this one murder that happened with a bump fire stock. It's not even some of these other murders out there that the left wants to pile on and make a big deal out of. You want to know what I want to talk about? This is the thing I want to sit down and talk about public safety. You want to save a whole lot more people? Let's save a lot of people. Instead of just saving a handful of people here and there that make you feel good about it, or instead of reaction with a knee-jerk reaction about something that might happen in the future, let's talk about the things that are happening, not once in a year, not once every 5 years, every single day. Here's some stats on gun deaths. Okay, we average in the United States roughly 32,000 total gun deaths per year. That's 32,000 total gun deaths per year. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Let me break this down for you. What do you think the biggest group of those gun deaths are? And I'm not making light of this. Suicide. Out of 32,000 total gun deaths per year, almost 20,000 of those, 19,200 of those 32,000 are suicides. So we basically got 2/3 of the deaths right there that the left has piled into that bucket, and they give the implication, they're trying to imply, they know these numbers. They know these numbers. I don't have to educate them. They know that 2/3 of these numbers are suicides. However, they lay that guilt on you and I and the stupid idiots out there that vote for them and follow them with these gaping mouths and slobber hanging out of it, and make them think that somehow or another these numbers are all murders. These are mass shootings. These are crazy people running around there with AR-15s, shooting people, and they kill 32,000 people a year. Completely untrue. Completely untrue. Total lies. But the idiots that vote for them believe every single minute of it. That's the thing. These people are so stupid. And the people in charge on the left, they know that their constituents are stupid. They realize that. That's the beauty of the whole thing. They've got these built-in votes, and these idiots and clowns are gonna vote for them no matter what. Look at Sheila Jackson Lee in Houston. Have you ever seen a more stupid person in your life that continues to get voted into office? She Jack. Anyway, look guys, I'm ADD. I go off on tangents. I'm gonna try to get back on track right here. 19,200 suicides a year. Okay, out of that 32,000 number, there are 960 accidental deaths. Now, accidental deaths are going to be ones where John is cleaning his gun and accidentally shoots his sister or himself or something like that. You know, it's not a heinous act. It's a tragedy, but it's not a heinous act. It's not where somebody's murdering, gang banging, or anything like that. So that leaves us, out of the 32,000 total deaths by guns, 19,200 of those are suicides, 960 of those are accidental. That leaves 11,000 of them that are the rest. Now, out of the rest of those, total 11,000 of them, you have to assume that, yes, that's probably where you have your murders and all that good stuff. So, and I don't mean good stuff, you know what I'm talking about. So we've got to make up our number of 32,000 gun deaths, and again, these numbers aren't going to line up perfectly, but it's close. You've got 19,200 suicides, 960 accidental deaths, and 11,000 make up the rest, murders, homicides, and whatnot. Now, you want to know a really interesting thing that nobody on the left wants to talk about? Here's the thing that nobody is going to mention to you when they talk about gun deaths. Again, they're implying that there's 32,000 murders and homicides a year of crazy guys running around out there with AR-15 shooting each other. The odd thing is, you and I both know this, AR-15s are hardly ever used in any kind of a murder. It's a fact. They're not. But 80% of homicides in America are what? They're gang related. They're gang related. Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, New Orleans, New York, you name it. All these big cities with all this gang activity, that's where your murders are. 80% of the 11,000 homicides in America annually are performed by gang members in a gang-related type setting. Now, who's talking about that? What's the tragedy there? Do the people who vote for these Democrats realize that the Democrats do not care about them? Do they even realize that? Do they not sit back and... Now, granted, you would have to go somewhere to try to find this data, because the mainstream media is not going to spoon feed this to you. I'll go find it for you guys, and you guys probably already know it. But the average person on the left will never stumble across these numbers. It's not on a website that they're going to read. But if they ran across it, do you think that it would bother somebody on the left if they knew that 80% of the 11,000 murders that took place in America were handled by gangs? Do you think that they would probably sit back and just wonder for a brief moment, I wonder why my congressman never told me that. I wonder why my congressman isn't doing something to try to correct that. I wonder why we don't have a moment of silence for that. I'm going to share some other numbers with you real quick on that same topic. This is kind of jaw-dropping to me. This is what's funny too. The left doesn't want to hear about Chicago anymore. When you bring up murders in Chicago, you know what the left does? Oh, here we go again talking about Chicago. Because it's such a hot topic when you talk about murders, they're tired of hearing about it. Because it's a common topic. They don't want to hear it. They blow it off like, why are you bringing that up again? But they don't ever address it. Oh, here goes Chicago. Tell me about the Chicago murders again. Fine, I'm going to tell you about it. Here are Chicago shootings since 2011. In 2011, they had 2,766 people murdered in Chicago. This ain't in Illinois. This ain't in Florida. This is not up and down the East Coast or the West Coast. Remember, we're talking about 11,000 murders here. 2,700 of those in 2011 were in Chicago. It gets better. In 2012, 3,066 of those were in Chicago. In 2013, numbers went down. Ooh, I wonder what happened here. It went down by 800. Only 2,272 murders in 2013. In 2014, those numbers were 2,600. In 2015, those numbers were 2,953. Now, here's a staggering number. And guess who was president? In 2016, remember our number in 2015 was 2,953. 2,900. Remember that number. In 2016, it was 4,350. 4,350. Up 47% from the previous year. 4,350 people were murdered. Not suicides. These are murders. We're not going to pull the same trick that the left does and pile suicides in this number to inflate the number to make it sound good. No, no, no. These are murders in Chicago. Do you hear anybody talking about that? Do you hear anyone talking about it? Have you heard anyone talking about it? Other than us. Have you heard anybody on the left have a moment of silence for that 4,300 something people? No, you haven't. Not an Illinois congressperson, not Dianne Feinstein, not Nancy Pelosi, not this jackass that sat out there on the front of the Capitol saying that we're not just stopping at bump fire stocks. Why does anybody need an AR-15? Who the hell cares why we need an AR-15? Maybe somebody in Chicago needs an AR-15 to stop the people that are killing everyone. Why aren't we talking about that? Let me do some quick numbers real quick here. Look at this. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. In 6 years, Chicago was able, on their very own, to kill off 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Chicago was able to kill off 17,000 of their own people in 6 years. How come we're not talking about this? How come the left doesn't want to talk about that? Seriously, why do you think they don't want to talk about it? I'll tell you why I think it is. Because those are the people who keep voting them into office. We're not enforcing gun laws. That's the problem. We have gun laws on the books. We have laws for stricter sentencing whenever a gun is used in a crime, and we do not enforce them. We don't enforce those laws. We give these guys slaps on the wrist or reduce sentencing. These guys, look, criminals are inherently stupid, but they're not completely stupid. Oddly enough, a criminal is going to learn what he can or can't get away with, and they're going to know if they can have this much weed in their car or this much weed in their car. They also know that if Billy over here was in 2 or 3 gun crimes, and had guns involved in both of them, yeah, the sentencing should be stricter. But guess what? Billy got a slap on the wrist, or no sentence whatsoever. There's a guy out there selling weed that's got a heftier sentence than Billy over here, who used a gun in 3 crimes. Those guys see that. They see that pattern. They know that no one's going to do anything to them. They're not afraid to use guns in a crime. And they've devalued human life so much now, it doesn't make them any difference. But nobody on the left wants to talk about that. Again, when you bring that up, they go, oh God, here we go again with Chicago. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's sickening to know that the people who vote for them are getting mowed down at record rates. You know what? The reason why they're probably so open for amnesty for all these Hispanics to come into the country is because their own voting base is getting killed off so fast, they need somebody to replace it. In Chicago, if they don't get a handle on the 17,000 people they've killed off in 6 years, it may actually go to a Republican at some point. It's got to flip-flop at some point. I know they're reproducing, but I mean, at the rate of 17,000 a year in 6 years that they're killing off, it's pathetic. It's a sad thing to sit here and watch, that these people do not care about other human beings. They really don't care about them. I don't care. I'm going to say this, and it may not even be popular to you guys out there. I'm going to say it anyway because I truly feel this in my heart. I am a decent person. And I'm a decent judge of character, and I watch other people. I watch them, and I watch how they handle things and how they carry themselves. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I believe this in my heart. When the Democrats, I'm going to use the Las Vegas shooting for instance, and I don't care who comes at me after this, bring it. After that Las Vegas shooting, I can guarantee you the likes of Nancy Pelosi, and I will use her as an example, she didn't shed one tear for one of those people who was shot or murdered. But there was a heightened sense of excitement in her household. I can promise you that. You know why? Now we got a chance to go after guns again. Now, I'm not going to say she was high-fiving somebody, celebrating that 59 people were murdered, but I can promise you, even if it's in her own mind, in her own space, she wasn't disappointed. I know she wasn't disappointed. She can cry her crocodile tears all she wants to and make all these stupid statements, but I can promise you, she truly was not disappointed. This was a chance for them to do what they're doing now. You don't think they're making money? You hear all these people on the left always talking about how the NRA is funding Congress and they're paying all these people these money. Do you honestly not think that the left is getting the same, if not more money? Bloomberg is a freaking millionaire, and he's funding that whole movement. That's just one man. The likes of Nancy Pelosi and all these other clowns out there, if there's not something going on where they can go out and talk about taking guns away, they're not getting paid. I'm not saying the right doesn't get their own lobbyists, taking them on hunting trips, flying them here and there and wherever to try to keep them happy. I get that. That the left's not doing the same thing. The left makes money off of these tragedies like this. The left makes money off of it. Again, I don't care who's offended. They make money off of it. They may not get a paycheck when somebody's murdered, but when they heighten all this stuff and they sensationalize everything and everybody gets all hyped up and excited, they get on TV, they start pumping their fists. Guess what comes in the mail? Here's your gun control check. Bam, cash it. Big money. Big money and people dying. The left makes money off of people dying. I don't care who has a problem with that. It is the honest to God truth. And if the left wants to debate me on that, you bring me all those canceled checks that you've been cashing from Bloomberg and prove to me that you're not making money whenever people die. You're making money off the backs of dead people. That's not right. Quit blaming the NRA for stuff like this. You guys have the blood on your hands. I'm going to mention some other numbers to you guys real quick. Talking about gang-related murders that the left doesn't care about. The CDC, our own government, during the Obama administration, so it's not like numbers that George W. Bush may have padded or Trump or George Sr. may have padded. This was the CDC's own numbers in 2010 and 2011. In 2010, there were 8,900 gang-related murders, and in 2011 there were 11,100 gang-related murders under the Obama administration. Good job, Brock. Of those murders, there was only 2,200 non-gang related murders. So, let's look at this number again real quick. Remember that number we talked about? Let me see if I can make this a little bit more. Let me pull a Democrat trick on you here. Just so we can make a point like these ass clowns on the left do. Alright. We're going to say total, and I have horrible handwriting, so you guys are going to have to bear with me on this. Total murders. Total gun deaths of 32,000. This is annually now. Total of 32,000. Now, we have, let me look at our numbers again. Suicide makes up, tell me we don't have a suicide problem. That's sad that we have 19,200 people a year killing themselves. You don't think there's some medication issues going on here? You don't think that there's some medical issues going on here? It's not right. 960 accidental. 960 accidental deaths. And then we have 11,000. Oops, wrong place. Let's just call them murders. It's actually a big bucket with a whole lot of other things in it, but we're just going to call it 11,000 murders. So, these three numbers again make up this number. 11,000 murders, 960 accidental deaths, 19,200 suicides. Now, of these murders, here's our number. Here's our telltale number here that's pretty eye-opening. Let's say we have between 8,900 to 11,100 gang-related murders. And of this same number here, only 2,200 are non-gang related. So these right here are the ones that the left really wants you to know about. My whole point for doing this is for you to see this. This is a number the left uses. That's the number they run around. They run around telling you that there's 32,000 gun deaths a year. That's the one they hang their hat on. They go, da da da, okay, let's not worry about it, let's not talk about that. Then we get down here, the actual number that they're actually implying the real problem is 2,200 deaths. Now, I'm going to give you my disclaimer again. I'm not saying 2,000 deaths is acceptable. I'm telling you the left is playing serious number games with you guys and me. There's 30,000 deaths in this number, pretty much, on the average, that they are pretty much dismissing. They're just blowing off because they're including it in this number, and they're not really numbers that you and I feel like the left cares about, because this is a number that they should be running around. They should actually be going out there saying we've got over 2,000 deaths a year that are murders and this and that, because they're not doing anything about their gangs. They're not doing anything about that. The accidental deaths, again, not acceptable, but under 1,000 deaths a year, where it's hunting accidents and things like that, they don't care about that. Do you hear them talking about gun safety? I mean, seriously, who on the left is telling you that we need to be more careful about gun safety? They never say gun safety. The people on the right, including the NRA, they work tirelessly on gun safety. The NSSF, tirelessly on gun safety. They're constantly working on gun safety. No one on the left I have ever heard in my entire life has said we need to improve gun safety for children. Have you? I haven't. They don't care about that. They don't care about that number. Now, they want that number to be in this number. Of course they do. Suicides. When's the last time you heard a Democrat say we need to work on people, try to figure out why we have so many suicides in this world or in this nation? Have you ever heard a Democrat say that? I mean, maybe they have, because that's a pretty big number to totally ignore. Maybe they have talked about it. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. Anytime there's a discussion about guns, the Democrats never say, you know what the real problem is? It's suicides. What are we going to do about it? No. They say we have 32,000 deaths. What are we going to do about that? What gun can we ban? They don't look at this number. They don't break that number out. They don't break these numbers up like I'm breaking them up to try to nail down what the real problem is. You can't look at this whole number and decide how to fix the problem without breaking these numbers down like I've done. But they don't do that. They don't want to do that. And they sure as hell don't want to talk about this number, the gang-related number. Again, they're never going to bring that up. The left is playing their own constituents for fools. Thankfully, we see it on the right, but we got to put up with it. And then we've got to get online and listen to Facebook debates where all these jackasses out there that only see this number right here. That's the only number they see. And we feel like we have to defend that. I'm going to post something on our website at LegallyArmedAmerica.com, and I'm going to make sure these numbers are accurate. I'm going to confirm them from every place I can, and I'm going to list my links where I pulled these numbers from so no one can debate that we made these numbers up on our own. And I'm going to put them out on our website, and I'm going to share them with you guys so we can have what we need to fight these clowns out there that are doing the wrong thing and passing bad information around, making it look like we've got 32,000 problems every single year. No, the problem is in their own backyard. If you break these down, these murders right here, this 11,000, wouldn't you like to see these 11,000 murders a year and where the districts are that they actually are in? How interesting would that be? You want to talk about a map that's blue? I can promise you this. This 8,000 to 11,000 murders that we've got a year that are gang related can pretty much promise you that they're not going to be in red districts. It's in their own backyard, and they turn their back on it. And those same people vote them in office time and time again. Where's the real problem? The real problem is not a bump fire stock. I can assure you of that. All right, guys, let's look at some other stuff real quick. Every time I come in here, my nose itches. Let's look here at some other things I want to talk about. Yeah, let's talk about Hillary Clinton for a second. Hillary Clinton wasted no time coming out, pumping her fist. God, it's like she's still running. Oh, my God, go away. Go away, lady. Go away. This is the most unlikable person. Unappealing. You hear her voice. I would rather spend an eternity in a room with a screaming kid running around and 10 people scratching their fingernails on a chalkboard than have to listen to 30 seconds to Hillary Clinton talk. I can't stand the sound of the woman's voice. Go away, lady. But she wasted no time coming out within a day. I think it was 11 hours after the shooting, saying that because what's the hot topic over there that the pro-gun people are looking at? The SHARE Act that includes the Hearing Protection Act. So Hillary comes out and says the murders in Las Vegas would have been worse if the killer would have had a suppressor. Well, Hillary, as you've been so many times, I'm afraid I'm going to have to prove that you're wrong. Hopefully she doesn't try to kill me. A typical gun, and I wrote some numbers down here, so I'm going to refer to my notes because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. The typical gun has a decibel rate of about 150 to 160 decibels. That's what a typical firing gun has. A suppressor on one of those guns drops it down between 20 to 30 decibels. Now, we in the gun community have a really bad habit. I'm going to get a quick drink of water if you guys don't mind. We in the gun community have a really bad habit of jumping on each other when one of us has incorrect facts sometimes, or maybe a fact that isn't spot on. Suppressors are actually called silencers by the ATF. It's not a phrase that anybody in the gun community made up. It's not equivalent to saying magazine instead of, or clip instead of magazine. It's not the same, because again, the ATF actually calls them silencers if you look into their own stuff. Yes, we know it doesn't quote silence it, make it completely silent, but it does in fact suppress it, and it's still called a silencer. So these people think that a suppressor completely silences a gun, and we all know that they don't. Again, they drop it by 20 to 30 decibels. So you're never going to not hear the gun, ever. And the 20 or 30 decibels that it does drop, it only drops it low enough to where the sound, the report of the actual gun isn't harmful to your hearing at that point. In other words, it's still plenty loud. It's just not so loud that it hurts your hearing, or it takes away, or it damages your hearing. Again, it doesn't make it quiet. It's still very loud. It's loud enough to where you still will put your hand in front of your head. Now, I'm not talking about a 22. We know suppressed 22. We get that. I'm talking about a standard gun with 150 to 160 decibel report whenever it's being fired. It's only dropped 20 to 30 decibels. You also have heard them say, Hillary's claim was that if he would have had a suppressor or a silencer, using her words, if he would have had a silencer, that you wouldn't have been able to tell where the shooter was from, that the only reason why they were able to catch this guy and minimize the amount of murder that was going on at that time was because they knew where he was coming from. They found him because of the sound of his gun, and that's how they located him. Let me explain something to you. And I've got a nifty little chart here for you I want you guys to see. Look at this chart right here. This chart is the layout of the area where this murder took place. Now, I can't point to this and let you guys see this on television, so you can see what I'm talking about. You see up at the upper left-hand corner, that's Mandalay Bay. And you see down there right below it at the right, the gunman located on the 32nd floor. That was his shooting perch where he was shooting from. Now, of course, you look down towards the middle to the right, lower part of this, this layout, and you see where the crowd and the stage and all that was. Okay, I'm sure everybody's got that at this point. Look at the way that building, the Mandalay Bay, was made. Look at the angles on it. And actually, all the angles of the Mandalay Bay are actually not drawn on this sketch. This is just showing basically about a 22.5 degree angle right there. I guess it'd be just the opposite. 22.5 degree would be a closed angle. This is a wide open angle. So this is probably more like a 160 degree angle on the side of that building. A couple of things that happen whenever a gun is being fired. One is the actual report of the gun. That's the report that Hillary is saying they located this guy from. The second thing that happens, and I'll go back to our regular screen right here. I don't know if you guys want to see me, but I'll put me back up. What happens, and I don't know, I can't get into the overall physics of it because I don't know them off the top of my head, but you hear two sounds. I know some of you probably heard some of the reports or saw some of the video and heard some of the audio thinking, man, that sounds like two guys shooting. And I don't want to get into the whole conspiracy thing. I'm just telling you what I knew when I heard this. If you notice, a lot of the times when you hear the overlapping reports, what that is that's the gun actually being fired when the bullet goes bang in the chamber. And the second shot is the sound of the bullet actually breaking the sound barrier 200 to 400 yards away. So you've got two sounds when a bullet is actually fired. You've got the bang, and then you've got the crack that's farther away. So it's like a deeper bang, and then a more of a firecracker crack whenever it's breaking the sound barrier. When a bullet breaks the sound barrier, it doesn't have the same report of the actual gun going bang. It's more of a, again, like a crack, like a firecracker. So you'll hear the that's what that is. You've got the report of the gun and then the sound barrier. The one thing, unless this killer was using subsonic ammo, which is slower than the sound barrier, that Hillary is wrong about, is that you still would have heard the sound of the gun being shot, just not quite as loud, but nothing would have stopped the sound barrier being broken. That would have still been out there. And when the sound barrier is being broken, that bullet is farther away from where that shooter was anyway, because the sound barrier is not broken immediately. That bullet takes off and then it breaks the sound barrier. So the crack is not where the shooter is. And I hope I'm not confusing you guys. I'm going to try to bring this thing up again to kind of explain this a little bit better. If you look at where the gunman was shooting, gunman located on 32nd floor, okay, the bang of the bullet being fired took place right there at the Mandalay Bay. But if you look where that Las Vegas Boulevard is, let's say that's about where the sound barrier was broken of each bullet. That would not have told anyone the location of where the shooter was. Nobody. It wouldn't have told anyone that. And on top of that, There's this huge misconception that a flash hider, a bird cage, you know, the thing on the front, that's some of them that are actually flash hiders, would have hidden where this person was from. Again, not the case. You can't stop the barrel from having the fire inside of it. If I am shooting, a gun at you, I don't care how good my flash hider is. My flash hider is good from anybody from the side, around, above, whatever. You're still going to see everything you would have seen. Maybe the flame doesn't come out here as far, but you're still going to see that flame coming out of the muzzle. You're still going to see that. That's not going to hide that. Nothing can hide that. Anything that would hide it would block the bullet from coming out of the muzzle. So that's not true either. Everything they've said is not true. And you know why it's not true? Because they don't know anything about guns. They pretend to, and the idiots that we talked about earlier who vote for them go, yep, if he'd had a suppressor, it'd kill a whole lot more people. They don't want to listen to facts. Nobody calls them on it. Nobody does. That's what's frustrating to me. There's no one to call these people on it. Nobody's calling me from CNN wanting to talk about Hillary's comments. My point is, it's getting frustrating dealing with the left on these gun issues because they take these facts, they watch too much TV, and they watch too many movies from these Hollywood idiots that most of them don't even have good consultants, firearms consultants in the movies. I will say this, the John Wick guys are pretty darn good. Outside of the John Wick movies, there's no good consultants out there. So these guys are misusing guns, and the general public and stupid people like Hillary Clinton, they take this information, they run with it. And of course, their constituents, the people who support them and idolize them, they believe everything, and they go repeat it. Next thing you know, some guy at the water cooler at work is telling you, and you're like, huh? That's not how that works. Then they think you're lying. Oh, here's a gun nut. Here's a gun nut telling me this. I've heard 10 people tell me this, and you're the only one that has told me anything different. You're the gun nut. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Guys, we got a long road ahead of us on all this stuff. This is frustrating because we're having to deal with this. Let's talk a little bit about the bump fire stuff. I know I went a little bit long on that, but one other thing I want to tell you guys real quick on the whole Hillary thing. Another thing that, if you're talking about the report of a gun, guys who are snipers will tell you this. When you are shooting, let's say this is your wall that you're shooting out of, a window, whatever. And I'm going to do it this way so you guys can see it like that. Okay. This is my rifle. This is the wall. When you're shooting, a sniper doesn't stick his barrel out of the window like this and shoot. You know why he doesn't do that? Because the report of his gun, suppressed or not, because remember the suppressor still makes noise. The gun will still make noise because of the suppressor. It's out here. It's going to go outside where this guy can be located and identified where he's at. Snipers back up into the room. They shoot from inside the room, and the round leaves the room and it goes outside the building. The reason why they do that is because the room itself acts as a suppressor. The room itself absorbs that noise. It takes that noise inside that room. It's like a huge suppressor on the inside of that room. Hardly any sound is exiting that room. You take that barrel and move it 3 feet out, and you've got way more noise that's bouncing around outside and reflecting off of hard surfaces, urban environments, and all that good stuff. You back it up 3 feet into the room, hardly anybody out there is going to know what direction that round came from. And that's a fact. Left doesn't want to talk about it. Hillary's a gun expert. Okay, guys. Talking about, I just want to generate some thought here because we know that this week has been really busy with everyone talking about bump stocks. I want to show you guys, these are some of the scenes from the hotel room, and I'm not going to show any of the gruesome scenes. Not that I think anybody on here would be bothered by it, but I still want to show some of the stuff in here. I'm just going to show you guys a couple of this is another shot here. I can see a bump fire stock. If you look at the two weapons here, The one on the left definitely has a bump fire stock on it, possibly a slide fire brand. The one on the right, that looks like a Daniel Defense rifle. If you notice the butt stock on it, unless this guy took the stock off and put on another rifle, that is not a bump stock. That it looks to be, I don't know the name of it, the actual stock itself, but that's that proprietary Daniel Defense stock that you see in a lot of theirs. And just those of you that aren't familiar with a bump fire stock, this right here is, if you look at where the finger is touching, that's the extension of the bump fire stock. The bump fire stock, in fact, you know what, let me do this. I just happen to have the ones that I use in a bunch of my demonstrations. This is the bump fire stock. What this is when you get one of these, if you guys don't know this already, and you probably do because you guys are gun guys, this thing right here, you modify the actual buffer and buffer tube, and you take the old pistol grip off. You notice this is not the pistol grip that came with the actual gun. Now this is a gun I built on a Spikes tactical lower, but you take all of your pistol grip and you might take off your buffer tube and your actual butt stock. This is what comes with it. If you notice, this piece of the butt stock is connected here. In fact, this piece right here, it's sliding on this. So we're connected, all this piece down this rail right here and this pistol grip is all connected. And what happens is, when you shoot it, your finger comes through here. And this gun, clearly guys, just so you know, there are no guns allowed in here, or sorry, no guns allowed in here. There's no ammo allowed in any of these weapons. They're all cleared before we take them in here, but I want to show you anyway that it's not. What happens is your finger comes through here, and when you push forward with your left hand, if you're right-handed, you do this, you push forward here, and your right hand is on here, and it's pulling backwards. And when this thing pulls, you're wanting to keep your finger in contact with that bump stock right there, that piece right there, and you want it draped across the trigger. So the trigger and the bump stock are both being engaged with your finger right there. So when you shoot it, you're pushing forward here with this hand, and you're pulling backwards with this hand. So that's how you shoot it, and you basically, it's like splitting something, like you're trying to pull something apart. So when you do that, that makes this thing fire. It starts bouncing off of your shoulder. Well, that's, let me show you that picture again now that we've kind of explained that. That is what was on several of his rifles, and again, I do believe that's what he was actually using. If you look though at this picture, you'll notice that you've got the bump stock in the middle. You've got that Daniel Defense over towards the upper upper right hand corner. And then it appears to be, it says in their drawing or in their picture, this is 3 pictures that were put together that were all taken from the same view. That's why it kind of has an oddball view to it. But it looks like, they say rifle body. That looks to me like a rifle on a tripod or a bipod. Can't really tell, but I do know that there is another one. Here we go. This is a close-up shot of it right here. Yeah, you see? Again, they say rifle body. I think that's just a rifle on a bipod. You can see the bipod legs up at the top there. Looks like a cheap one too. And here's another picture of another rifle on a bipod with a scope. Notice there's no magazine in that one. I don't know if maybe the cops took the magazine out of that one. You see, they've obviously claimed this is a crime scene already. But anyway, that's kind of the weapons he had. I think there's way more information that's going to come out that you're going to see. Yeah, I see somebody mentioned about the dead guy body. That's him right there. You'll notice too, I'm going to see if I can move this picture up. You'll notice, here we go. I'm moving this, I'm adjusting this, and I'm about to send it to you guys. All right, look here. You'll notice he's got a rag or a towel or something wrapped around his left hand. That's obviously to control the heat that he was probably feeling coming off of that bump fire stock in that barrel. So, scary, guys. It's scary to know that we have a nutbag out there that had access to these guns like this, and nobody saw it coming. You know, I mean, this is really, I'm not trying to be facetious here. It's scary to me. You know, I saw a report earlier today, went into detail. I'm no doctor, and I don't take any kind of medication, so I don't know medications that well. And it was a medication I'd never heard of, but it was a medication for, you know, a mentally ill person, somebody that was, I don't know if it was a depression type drug or what, but it was a drug that, I'm not saying the drug caused it. Again, I'm a person that believes in accountability, self-accountability. I don't look at things like, let me figure out who was to blame here. If I'm involved in something where there's a screw up, it's typically going to be me. I'm going to figure out how I could have done something different, not how you could have done something different to prevent me doing something stupid. But I do believe, honestly believe, that a lot of what people are doing out there, there's people are being drugged up. You know, these doctors are basically pill forms. They're prescribing that, and I'm not painting all doctors with a broad brush here. I know some physicians who are very, very good people who agree with me on this very same thing. But there's a lot of doctors out there that are making a whole lot of money running these people through, giving them that 15-minute visit and writing that prescription. Get out of here. I got another guy I need to come in here that I can give his prescription to. The left's not talking about that. The left's not worried right now that this guy was on medication. The left's not asking any questions about, did this guy falsify his 4473 form when he went to buy these guns? The left's not asking any of those questions. The left's worried about a bump stock. The left's worried about a suppressor. The left's not asking any of the right questions right now about this thing. It's a tragedy. It's sad because this has opened my eyes more than anything to the left. I don't think they care about the average voter. I honestly don't. I really don't. Let's talk real quick, guys. Speaking of bump stocks, this may make some people mad. I hope it doesn't. It's worth talking about. Let's talk about the NRA's statement from yesterday about bump fires. I will read this in case you guys cannot see it on your, if you're watching this on a mobile device or something like that. I will go ahead and read it. This is from Fairfax, Virginia. The National Rifle Association today issued the following statement. In the aftermath of the evil and senseless attack in Las Vegas, the American people are looking for answers as to how future tragedies can be prevented. Unfortunately, the first response from some politicians has been to call for more gun control. Banning guns from law-abiding Americans based on the criminal act of a madman will do nothing to prevent future attacks. This is a fact that has been proven time and again in countries across the world. In Las Vegas, reports indicate that certain devices were used to modify the firearms involved. Despite the fact that the Obama administration approved the sale of bump fire stocks, on at least 2 occasions, the National Rifle Association is calling on the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to immediately review whether these devices comply with federal law. The NRA believes the devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. In an increasingly dangerous world, the NRA remains focused on our mission, strengthening Americans' Second Amendment freedom to defend themselves, their families, and their communities. To that end, on behalf of our 5 million members across the country, we urge Congress to pass a national right to carry reciprocity, which will allow law-abiding Americans to defend themselves and their families from acts of violence. I'm going to leave that up there for a second for you guys if you want to read through it a little bit more. The NRA is taking some heat over this. I cannot say anything negative about the NRA and their stance on this. And I'm going to tell you guys why. I'm going to grab me a sip of water real quick because I'm sure you guys are going to have some comments on this. If we do not support the NRA, and I'm not telling you who to support. I'm not one of those kind of guys that tries to tell people what to do. I believe in freedom of expression in any kind of way you want to do it. That includes what you want to do and when you want to do it. The NRA does a lot for the gun community. You know why the left hates the NRA so much? It's not because they sent this letter out against bump stocks. Because the left actually likes this particular item. The left hates the NRA because of all the work the NRA has done for us in the Second Amendment. Again, say what you will about, I've hearing the things about the NRA bailed out, the NRA sold out, the NRA did that, this and did that. I know people from the NRA personally, and I know how hard they work. This is not a part-time job for them. They don't sit around all day long trying to figure out how they can piss off people that they're taking money from for their membership dues. Again, I'm not saying bump fire stocks should be banned, and I don't think the NRA is either, to be honest with you. In fact, you can read on my blog post on our website that I say why bump fire stocks shouldn't be banned. But in this case, I feel like the NRA was in a pickle, and they feel like they had to, number one, get involved somehow. I don't know that. I don't think that. I mean, I'm giving you my opinion. I don't think they are asking the ATF to ban them. I think what they're doing is trying to put the ball in somebody else's court, because right now everybody's wanting to blame the NRA for something that they have had nothing to do with. The NRA does a lot of work in the gun community. The NRA trains a lot of children how to safely use guns. The NRA is responsible for a lot of children who are handling and managing firearms in a very safe manner. They have some massive, massive campaigns that they push out there. Women, they're always trying to train women how to defend themselves. The NRA's work is not just trying to figure out how to get the ATF to re-look at bump fire stocks. The NRA does a lot of work. Again, I'm not telling you guys what to think. I'm just reminding you what the NRA does do in our favor. And let's just wait for their next move. I mean, that's all I can ask you guys right now. Wait for their next move. Let's see what their next step is. Because the last thing they probably wanted to do, they're not stupid. They knew they were going to piss people off. They knew that they were going to get this blowback once they put this letter out there about the bump fire stock. There's a reason why they did this. And I don't think they're throwing anybody under the bus at this point, because the bump fire stock issue, let's face it, guys, honestly, and I know we have the Second Amendment, who out there is shocked that we're having this conversation about a bump fire stock right now? I mean, I will say this, our country and our legislators thought enough about machine guns and fully automatic guns back in the 80s to ban them from you and I just being able to go out and purchase one without an extensive background check and screening process. How long did you think a bump fire stock was going to be allowed to be out there? I mean, seriously. The only reason why the bump fire stock was allowed to pass through during the Obama administration anyway is because there were technically some wording issues that it got around. Let me see here. I want to read a little bit. Let me try to find where this is here. No gun silencers. I had something that I wanted to share with you guys. Now, don't tell me I don't have it anymore. Okay, here we go. I think this is it. Well, my internet is really dragging right now, guys. I apologize. The website, here we go. Let me read through real quick. I want to share it with you guys. I may need to grab a screenshot and get it over to you all so you can see it. I'm going to try to post a lot of what we talked about on here also on our website so you guys can see it. Statement applies. I want you to see the wording that allowed the bump fire stock, or allowed it, I should say, to be legalized in the first place. Interesting wording. And what I mean by interesting wording is this thing actually would never have been legalized if this wording had not been so specific that this thing was able to fall through the cracks. Here we go. Spelling out the legal definition of a firearm, ATF Technology Chief John Spencer determined it was not regulated by law. Here's why it's not regulated by law. Quote, the stock has no automatically functioning mechanical parts or springs and performs no automatic mechanical function when installed, Spencer wrote. Accordingly, we find that the bump stock is a firearm part and is not regulated as a firearm under Gun Control Act or the National Firearms Act. I am going to grab a screenshot of this real quick and I'm going to bring it over here where you can see it for yourself, because this is actually kind of interesting to me. So technically speaking, if let's say if the NFA, or I'm sorry, the ATF's wording for a fully automatic would have somehow or another included maybe cyclic rate, how fast bullets leave the muzzle, we might be having a totally different conversation right now. We may not even be talking about bump fire stocks, because there might not be any such thing as a bump fire stock. But because of the way a fully automatic gun is described by the ATF, this thing was able to be designed around it. You don't think the ATF probably shot this thing and said, God dang, we shouldn't allow this thing, but technically it qualifies, so there's nothing we can do to stop it. So anyway, this is the time. I can't seem to pull this file up, so I apologize. For some reason I can't, everything's lagging right now that I have over here. So anyway, the wording is what really kept this thing, or allowed this thing to be legalized, and now we're at a point where they're wanting to take it back. So anyway, there's some other items out there that I think are probably issues that oh, here we go. Now I'm just going to let me pull it up. What are some other things out there that you guys think that the left is going to go after next? I mean, in all honesty, do you really think of it? Do you really think they're not going to be going after anything else? I mean, do you think magazines are the next thing? Do you think AR-15s are the next thing they're going after? Personally, I think that's what's next. I believe the AR-15 is going to be the next thing that they definitely take a swipe at and do everything that they can to pull out of there. Let me see here. Here we go. This thing that I was just talking to you guys about. If you notice, the second paragraph down says the stock has no automatically functioning mechanical parts or springs and performs no automatic mechanical function when installed. Blah, blah, blah. You can read the rest of it. You see what I'm talking about. So, needless to say, that's why this thing was allowed to be implemented as a part. It was considered a gun part. And, yes, we expect the Second Amendment to protect. We kind of fall into this. We expect the Second Amendment to protect every single thing gun-related. But if you think about it, and I think this is why the NRA made their decision the way they did, a gun part, technically speaking, is not protected by the Second Amendment. The gun itself is. If you had a gun that was manufactured, and this may be something that, depending on what the NRA changes in their wording, if a gun is manufactured from the manufacturer with some type of a bump fire stock system on it, then in my eyes, that gun itself, the entire gun, because it was manufactured as one gun with that bump fire stock, that gun is protected by the Second Amendment. I hope I'm not making you guys angry, but that's just a point that I'd like to make. So that's why the NRA took the stance that they did. And again, I'm just making an assumption here, but you've got to look at it like this. They are going to do all they can to protect firearms. I don't think these guys feel like their connection, their commitment is necessary to protecting every single gun part out there. If you really want to look at it like this, how is a bump fire stock any different than a scope or an optic that you put on your gun? Again, I'm not saying that they ought to be banned. I'm just saying I see where the logic that the NRA probably got into and how they are working towards their decision on what they did. So just trying to make sense of it, guys. Again, I don't know. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that a bump fire stock ought to be outlawed. I don't have a ton of use for one. Have you seen it? Excuse me. Have you seen in some of my videos? It's not something that, look, the guns I have, okay? I have my guns for hunting, for personal defense, and maybe some competition. Let's say sport shooting, which would include weekend messing around and all that. A bump fire stock does not apply to any of those for me. I'm not telling you there's no use for one, but there's no use of one for me to defend my family. Certainly not grabbing a bump fire stock. I'm going to grab any one of these other guns out of here. I'm not grabbing one of the bump fire stock. I want a controlled rate of fire. I want my follow-up shot to be where I want it to be, when I want it to be there. Bump fire stock's not doing that for me. Certainly not taking it hunting for the exact same reason. I'm not going to take it to a competition for the same reason. I got no problem with you having one. The biggest question at this point, I think, is going to be, does not the NRA, they're going to be banned. They're going to be banned. The ATF is going to. I mean, they just basically got their marching orders and told what to do. When they are banned, will they be grandfathered? Now think about this. Are they going to tell you and are they going to tell me to take these two that I have one on an AK and one on an AR? Are they going to let me know? They don't know that I have them, first of all. Are they going to tell me that I have to turn them in somewhere? Think about it. There's a lot of them out there. A lot of them out there. A lot of them got sold this week. What do? How do you get them all back? They're not serialized. They don't know who's got them. These things aren't tracked. They're not a trackable item. The ATF literally has no way of knowing where these things are. So now what? They're going to make us felons if we own one and we don't turn them in? There's got to be some kind of way to handle this. There's no way. I don't see them just saying, all right, from now forward, nobody can have a bump fire stock. I don't see that happening, because it doesn't relieve the panic of the left, the people who can't think past the fact that a bump fire stock was just used. They can't think past that. So I believe there's going to be an issue, that a bridge we're going to have to cross at some point coming up. So what do you do with all of them that are out there? There's a lot of them that are out there. And for all I know, some of them are still being manufactured. Now, just like the Nazis that they are, YouTube and Google being the owner of YouTube, they've taken down any site that sells a bump fire stock. Now, I read this earlier. I will say this. I have not gone and confirmed this, but I read it from multiple sources earlier that Google has now taken down any possibility for you and I to go out there and buy a bump fire stock online. Cannot purchase one online anymore. So the ball's already rolling. I want to say this one thing in defense of bump fire stocks. I know one company, some of the owners personally, who make these things. The owners of these bump fire stocks, one of the owners, when I call his cell phone and I don't get him, I get his voicemail. He says, "You've reached blah, blah, blah. Please leave a message. God bless." This is a God-fearing man. This is a man that has children, a wife, a son, a daughter, a family. He's a very good dad. He's a good person. This man did not. Now his bump fire was not used in this murder. He uses it's a different brand. But he did not design his bump fire stock for anyone to use. I know without a doubt in my mind, he had no intention of this thing being used in any kind of crime. But I can promise you, he would be vilified by the general public, the left, so to speak, if they knew who he was. If his neighbor knew who he was and knew that that's what he owned, and maybe his neighbor does, guarantee you they would give this man grief. You're a murderer. You got blood on your hands. All that kind of stupid stuff. When he only designed and put something out there because it could be made, not for the reason to kill people. I'm going to tell you the only reason, and you guys probably already know this, you know why bump fire stocks are popular anyway? There's only so many machine guns out there. There's only so many fully automatic guns out there in the world, or I shouldn't say in the world, in the United States, because of the Gun Control Act back in the 80s. So there's only so many, 150,000. Let's say there's 150,000. That's probably actually close to the number. Let's say there's 150,000 fully automatic guns out there. There were in 1986. There's no more today. They cannot be made for civilian use. So no more are coming into the market. The ones that are owned are already owned, and they're being resold. Every time they're resold for more money. Every year that goes by that there's no more being made, these things increase in value. So a guy like me, yeah, I could probably save up and buy one. I'm not going to. It's a waste of money to me. I don't have any use for a fully automatic gun anyway. I think they're totally useless. I'm never going to be in a situation where I have to lay down suppressive fire. I want to hit what I'm shooting at. I don't need a fully automatic gun. But even some of the junk ones out there, you can buy a junk 9mm like an Uzi or something like that, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. Now you have to go through the process of all the paperwork, of course, and the screening and the in-depth issues to get it. But who out there, the average American, in most cases, are going to do that? Not many. You got to look at your middle class and below. In a lot of cases, those people never see one. They probably don't have friends that know anybody that has one. They'll never buy one. Heck, you can't afford to shoot it when you have it anyway because it uses so much ammo. But the average American will never see, let alone shoot, and definitely not own a fully automatic gun. But yet, fully automatic guns on TV, in movies, they see people shooting these. These people it has no recoil on TV. They hit everything they're shooting at, and the cool, baddest guy on there always has one. Everybody wants to shoot one at least once. What's the closest you can get? A bump fire stock. From $200 to $500. Either one, depending on the brand you get, you can buy a bump fire stock. That's why there's an appeal for these things. It's not because people want to go kill people. It's not for home defense. It's not for hunting. It's not for competitions. It's because you get to have that mystique of shooting something that is as close as you can get to fully automatic without being fully automatic. You can shoot it. Now I will tell you this, guys that I know that have these things, they buy them, they're excited to shoot them, they shoot them that one time, they're done, I never see them shoot them again. It's like, okay, that was okay. Because you've got the muzzle rise where the thing's climbing, it's not controllable, you just burned up a bunch of ammo, it's not a big deal. They are fun to shoot. If you consider fun burning up a bunch of ammo and not hitting what you're shooting at. So that's where the mystique came from. You know, honestly, other than these guys that are feeding their families, that have these companies that make these things, which I feel for because they're under attack right now, other than those people, no one's going to miss bump fire stocks once they're gone. I really believe that. It's not serving a purpose. There's not, other than getting close to shooting a fully automatic gun, you know, no one's going to say, oh man, I wish I had my bump fire today. Or I could do this if I had my bump fire. Nobody's going to do that. My heart goes out to the families. These families had nothing to do with what took place in Las Vegas. I'm going to say this real quick. Accountability. Someone needs to take, if people would learn to take accountability for their own actions and quit trying to blame something else for what happened. The left is looking in all the wrong places for why this happened. And they know that nothing gets solved. As far as this goes, nothing gets solved going forward banning a bump fire stock. They know that. That's why they say, do they really think we're going to stop at just taking the bump fire stock away? Because we know and they know that they're not going to. Folks, I haven't had a chance to look at any of your comments on here. I apologize. This is a passionate subject for me, guys. I mean, this is a big part of my life, you know, what we do in the gun community. And, you know, this week just showed me more and more and more. I did a lot of interviews, guys. The video that I put out there on the bump fire stock, it's got probably 750,000 views right now after 3 days. I've done interviews with CNN, Huffington Post, Time Magazine, CBS, ABC, excuse me, NPR. I have been hit with questions this week as if I'm the guy who pulled the trigger. because I'm considered the pro-gun, quote, expert. So I'm automatically the enemy to these people. I have been tried to be tricked so many times from wording and questioning to try to get me to say something that will make me look like some kind of an idiot hillbilly that runs around shooting whatever I can at whomever I can. I've seen so much of that this week. I see how strong and powerful the left is as far as having the media in their back pocket, and how the media functions and operates exactly like the Nancy Pelosi's and the Dianne Feinsteins of the world. They're ruthless. They do not care about people. They simply care about their agenda and getting their way. So I just ask you guys, those of you that have the beef with the NRA right now, and I'm not even going to say to reconsider your view, because I would never do that. I respect you guys' view just like I hope you respect mine. But I hope you will at least keep an open mind going forward and watch the things that they do from this point forward, because I think this is a piece in a puzzle that they're trying to put together now going forward. I think that guys, we have midterms next year. Midterm elections are coming up in 2018. This is going to be a hot topic right here. This is going to be a hot topic. I really don't think what we need to do is abandon the NRA as far as support for them, because just like the left is very well funded, we need the right to be funded too. We need these candidates on the right. That we have to keep these majorities in the Senate and the House next year for midterms. We just simply can't abandon the lobbying arm. I know no one likes the sound of a lobbying group, but it's just a fact. If the left is going to have their lobbying, writing checks to people to support them and to vote a certain way, you know what? I'm tired of getting beaten because one side is playing by a dirty set of rules and we're not willing to do that too. I'm the kind of person that will never initiate that, but if you corner me and back me up, I will play by the same set of rules. We've got to start playing by their set of rules. And I'm not saying there's not other organizations. I think there's a National Association for Gun Rights, the NSSF. There are other organizations out there too. So I'm not telling you the NRA is the only one. Don't ever think I'm saying that. What I'm saying is I think we need them all. I do think we need. I don't think it's an either or. I support them all. I get emails from every single one of them. I've actually had to direct mine to a junk folder because I have so many of these organizations that I support and that I pay money to, because I feel like we need every single one of them out there. We don't need just one. We don't need just two. We need them all. So again, I'm not asking you just to support the NRA. I'm asking you to consider their position, and that this is potentially the first step in a long line of things that they're trying to do, because of course they are the biggest lobbying arm out there for pro-gun and Second Amendment. Guys, I'm going to break out of here tonight. Again, I know I kind of went off on some tangents on some things. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much, because a lot of this stuff is so near and dear to my heart. I do appreciate when you guys hang out with me, because you know, it's definitely I look at that as it's very flattering to me that you guys would spend that much time with me. I went way over on my time tonight, and I just want you guys to know that I appreciate everything y'all are doing to try to keep the fight going in your areas, because it's so important for us to do that. And let's not lose sight of what we're really fighting for. We're really fighting for the right to be able to defend ourselves and our families. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. As always, I appreciate you. You guys have a great weekend. I will be in touch. Like I said earlier, I will probably take a bunch of what I put out there tonight and try to put some statistics and some numbers out there so you guys can use them in the future to make these same cases with people that you might be talking to around the water cooler at work or something like that. So, guys, have a great weekend. I've enjoyed our time here with you. I look forward to next Friday. We can hopefully have a little bit more laid-back conversation like we normally do, and talk about some guns and some specific things like that. Until then, guys, you know, shoot safe, be safe, and always remember we've got to protect the Second Amendment. It's one of the last things that we have that I feel like we really need to fight for, that protect a whole lot of other rights that we have. So have a great weekend. We will see you guys next time. you.